Hello students, I hope everyone is doing quite well at their home, getting along with their studies and of course enjoying their quarantine time with their parents. I am Mudit Jain and let's start today's session with the thought of the day. Do what is right, not what is easy. Of course, some wrong things which you might seem that these are going to be beneficial in my life can turn out to be wrong. You have to make your informed decision, your informed judgment that you must do always those things which are right, not that are easy. Many a times easy things can also lead to a very difficult or different or negative or unsuccessful path, and you should try to avoid it. You should work hard, you should have your full endeavors and maneuvers, and you should succeed towards the path of success. We are starting with a very new chapter, very fresh chapter, that is the fourth chapter, the Rattrap, by Selma Lagerlof. Of course, it's a very interesting chapter, a very lengthy one, and from the exam point of view, it's one of the most important chapter. This chapter and the fifth chapter, Indigo, is going to be the most important, most vital chapter from exam point of view and from the length point of view as well. So you have to pay your utmost concentration while going through all these pages of explanation. I will remind you that most of the long questions, long explanatory answers come from this Rattrap and second Indigo, which is the fifth chapter. We will read it later on, but for now the fourth chapter, Rattrap, is very important. Tick mark it from exam point of view, from your psychological point of view, from what we can say, from concentration point of view as well. So we are starting with the fourth chapter, the Rattrap, and I hope everyone is giving or paying their utmost concentration, utmost dedication to this chapter. I don't want you to miss any single detail, any single what we can say, query that you have to make sure you clear it out. You have to clear all your doubts, because this is very vital chapter. Length is also very big. There are different characters in it, different perception of those characters, different opinions and thoughts and understanding of those characters, and how this story relates us to our own world, that is the planet that we are living in. So let's start with the chapter. Page number, I think 32 page number in Flamingo book, your fourth chapter, the Rattrap. The fourth chapter, the Rattrap. I'm starting with the author's introduction about the author, page 32. Okay. Selma Lagerlof, which the author, the Swedish author who lived from 1858 to 1940, that is quite a number of years, was a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. The Selma Lagerlof person was a Swedish writer. A universal theme runs through all of them. Whatever the author writes, it has kind of a generic or a universal theme, means every one of us, all the people of the universe or all the people of the world can relate to the author's writing. It is very generic, it is very universal, people can relate to it. It's not fantastic, it's not kind of a fantasy or imaginary or what we can say unrealistic. It is quite realistic. A universal theme runs through all of them, a belief that essential goodness in human being, very important, essential goodness in human being can be awakened through understanding and love. So usually I give an article to write that kindness can heal the world. Kindness can heal the world. I think I will give you this topic at the end of the chapter so that you can get an understanding that what this whole chapter is all about. This line is saying that we can transform a person, we can convert a person from evil to good with understanding and love. With understanding and love. Many people who have gone to wrong path, who have adopted criminal activities and they have got caught by the police and they have been sent to jail, they can also be transformed if proper attention or proper understanding or proper love is provided to them. If you don't know about it, there are a lot of psychological classes, lot of rehabilitation classes are taking place in the prison, in the jails as well, so that the criminals or the people who have accepted or gone down the track of wrong paths or the criminal activities, they can also uplift them, they can also improvise them, they can also grow mature as a person, so that they can also realize that whatever we are doing is wrong for the entire world, and that can only be done, that transformation, that change, that amendment in a person's personality, in a person's understanding, can be brought by understanding only, can be brought by love only. If we are loving each other, if we are understanding each other, we have learned this in Keeping Quiet. Keeping Quiet poem में भी यही बात हुई थी, that we have to develop a sense of mutual understanding. We have to keep quiet and look around. We have to self introspect कि हम जो कर रहे हैं उससे दूसरों को क्या हार्म हो रहा है, दूसरों को कैसे हर्ट हो रहा है. So here the author's books or author's writings, author's work also deals with this similar scenario, that the internal human goodness, जो हमारे अंदर goodness छुपी हुई है, the kindness, the generosity, the benevolence which is hidden inside our heart, can be invoked, can be awakened, can be what we can say put into light with the help of understanding and love. With the help of understanding and love. This story is set amidst, this story, it's the environment, the surrounding of the story is set amidst in the mines of Sweden. Swedish mines जो हैं वहाँ पर, mines means the small, the very great number of caves and the great number of diggings that people do to extract minerals and other kind of elements. Rich in iron ore. Iron ore is the raw material from which iron is made. Write it down, underline करके वहाँ लिख लो. Iron ore is the raw material from which iron is extracted or iron is manufactured, which figure large in the history and legends of that country. Swedish country, Sweden जो है वहाँ पर iron ore के legend means something very popular, something very renowned, जिसका reputation बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. So in Sweden the prominence or the importance of iron ore and iron is very much renowned, very much popular. Everybody knows that Sweden is known for its rich availability of iron ore. The story is told somewhat in the manner of a fairy tale. This story is told in a manner of fairy tale. Now fairy tale क्या होता है? That some person is in a very tragic situation, is in a very disappointing situation, is in a very miserable condition, and some godfather or godmother comes and takes the person's problems or troubles and botherations away, and the person becomes happy, the person becomes rich, the person becomes relaxed and free and independent. आपने सिंड्रेला के बारे में सुना होगा. The Cinderella story is kind of a fairy tale story. What happened? That Cinderella was a poor girl who used to tolerate the torments and the torture of her stepmother. Her stepmother did not used to keep her very well. She used to discriminate between her own daughters and her stepdaughter. So that is why she used to work all day, every day, 24 hours a day, and she used to suffer a lot. She did not have proper clothes. One day what happened, there was a ball conducted. Ball मतलब जो dancing tournaments होते हैं या dancing events होते हैं, तो the prince conducted a dancing ball for all the people of the city or of the kingdom. And Cinderella also wanted to go, but her stepmother did not permit her. So what happened? When the stepmother and her daughters left, Cinderella was feeling very sad, very melancholy, very dejected, and suddenly a fairy came, a godmother came, and she transformed Cinderella. She changed Cinderella into a very beautiful princess, all that lavish gowns and the jewelry and the sandals and everything, and she went to the prince's ball, and the prince ultimately fell in love with Cinderella. So all these kind of things does not happen in real life. It's unrealistic obviously, but here what happened will seem like a fairy tale mixed with the elements of realism. You will feel that this story is realistically possible, but it is described, or it is enunciated, it is narrated in the form of a fairy tale. A fairy tale. Fairy tale means जो fictional होता है, जो unrealistic होता है उसमें, but आपको यहाँ realism भी लगेगा, unrealistic चीज़ें भी आपको दिखेगी. Let's start with the chapter. You will come to know what I am talking about. There are a number of characters, and each character has its own definite persona, its own definite personality, traits, characteristics, features, and you have to remember all of them. The main character of this book is, of this story is the rat trap seller. Now let's come to the rat trap. Rat trap क्या होता है? Rat trap, the device or the instrument or the tool which is used to capture rat in our home. जो एक लोहे का एक instrument type का होता है कुछ. If you remember, it has small nets in it, and you put a cheese in the hook. You put a piece of bread in the hook, and the rat comes at the night, and he starts feeding on the bread, or he starts feeding on the cheese or the butter, and suddenly the door closes and he gets trapped, he gets captured in that rat trap, in that device, in that tool. And the very morning when you wake up, you see the rat and you throw it away in the forest or in some vacant place. So that is how rat trap works. So the protagonist or the hero of this story here is a rat trap seller. मतलब वो person जो rat trap को sell कर रहा है, बेच रहा है, the person whose occupation or whose employment depends on the rat trap, जिसका occupation भी यही है कि वो rat trap को बेचता है. The devices which are used to capture rats and mouse and different rodents. Got it? Now I'm starting with the chapter. We are starting from the very first line, that is, once upon a time. Obviously it's a fairy tale, and all the fairy tales starts from once upon a time. If you have seen Disney movies जिसमें Snow White होते हैं, Cinderella होते हैं, Elsa, Anna, Aurora is there, so many Disney princesses are there. All the stories generally start from once upon a time. So once upon a time there was a man who went around selling small rat traps of wire, whose occupation, whose business or whose employment was selling rat traps which are made of iron wire. जो wire से बने हुए rat traps होते हैं, शायद आपके यहाँ पे कहीं picture नहीं है, but you get the idea. Your family have used rat trap at some point of their life, so you know what rat traps are. और अगर नहीं पता है rat traps, Google it. That's the best option. Google बाबा के पास जाना, go to Google uncle and say what is rat trap. You will come to understand what is rat trap. So once upon a time there was a man who went along and selling rat traps door to door. मतलब आप अगर डोर टू डोर सेल्समैन जानते हैं तो what they do not have a proper business establishment, they do not have a proper shop or a proper building or a proper house or structure where they can sell their rat traps or sell their products. Here the rat trap seller does not have any kind of shop, so what he does, he carries the rat traps on his shoulder or in his hand, and he goes door to door selling rat traps. He roams from street to street selling the rat traps. He does not have a proper establishment to conduct his business activities. Okay. He made them himself at odd moments from material he got by begging in the stores or at the big farms. Obviously he was so poor, he was so miserable, he was so downtrodden, he was not good in money, he was not well in money. So what he did, he made those rat trap himself. He made those those devices with his own hands. And what happened? From the material he got by begging, the material of rat trap. अब उस rat trap में material क्या लगेगा? Iron. Mostly iron will be there. 99% I guess iron will be used. So he got the raw material, the iron, by doing what? By begging in the stores or at big farms. He went from stores to stores begging for the iron. Matlab he could not afford the raw material for his own product. He was so poor, he was so downtrodden that he did not have enough money to purchase the raw material from which he can make rat traps. So what he did, he went from one farm or one store to another. यहाँ पे stores और big farms बता रखा है. Big farms यहाँ पे क्या हो गए? बड़ी बड़ी जो mines हैं, all the big mines are the big farms. Farms, what is farm? Farm means a field. खेत जिसको बोलते हैं. तो यूजुअली अगर इंडिया में हम फार्म की बात करें तो इट वुड बी द फील्ड्स और द कल्टिवेटेबल लैंड, एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड, जहाँ से क्रॉप्स जो है वो हार्वेस्ट होते हैं. बट यहाँ पे सिंस वी हैव ऑलरेडी लर्नड दैट द कंट्री ऑफ स्वीडन इज रिच इन आयरन ओर एंड आयरन प्रोडक्शन थ्रू माइंस, सो द बिग फार्म्स हियर रेफर्स टू the fields or the iron mines. So here he went to store begging or asking for the raw material which he needed to manufacture or to build his final product. और final product क्या था? Rattrap, which is the title of our lesson, Rattrap. But even so, the business was not so especially profitable. Of course, the business was not so especially profitable. Not all the people purchase Rattrap at their home. आप अगर एक बार Rattrap लेके आ जाते हैं, if you purchase the Rattrap once, you do not have the need to purchase again and again and again. If I'm purchasing this shirt or this belt or any other thing or my watch, I might have a need to purchase these things again in a 1 year or 2 year period of time. उससे ज़्यादा I cannot wear those or consume those products again. But Rattrap के साथ तो ऐसा नहीं कि ये फैशन से बाहर चला गया है कि it is not trendy to use these kind of Rattraps और इस वाले Rattrap में तो rat आते नहीं हैं क्योंकि इसमें smell अच्छी नहीं आती है. Like that is not a possibility, that is not a argument. So the Rattraps did not used to sell much in much quantity, and that is why the profit or the income or the generation of money in the business of Rattrap was very low. It was not that profitable, it was not that beneficial in the life of Rattrap seller. See, यहाँ पे Rattrap seller का नाम नहीं लिखा हुआ है, तो you have to consider Rattrap seller ही मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ वही protagonist है. तो imagine it, picturize it, create an imagery in your mind that there is a weak person, there is a very thin person who has rat traps hanging from his shoulder. He is very poor, he is in a very pathetic, miserable condition, and he is going door to door, street to street, roaming from one place to another, selling rat traps. But even so, the business was not specially profitable. He was not earning enough money to survive. So he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. Underline that statement. What he had to do to keep his body and soul together. Now first we will understand the meaning of body and soul together. Body is there, जो आपका शरीर है. Soul is there, which is your spirit, your ghost, or your, जिसको हम हिंदी में आत्मा बोलते हैं. तो if body and soul are together, that means you are living, you are surviving, you are breathing, your existence is there on this, in this world. But when body and soul are separated, they are not together, they are taken apart. That means you pass away, you die, your demise has come, आप मर चुके हैं. That is keeping the body and soul together. तो इसमें बोला गया है that the Rattrap seller used to resort to, कि उसको क्या करना पड़ता था मजबूरी में, because of his miserable condition, he had to switch to what things? Beggary, मतलब begging करना, भीख मांगना, and second petty thievery. Now petty means what? Small. Thievery means what? Stealing, or there's a nice word, pilferage. एक और word है larceny, Larceny. Larceny also means चोरी करना, कहीं दूसरी जगह जाके डकैती करना, that is larceny. So the Rattrap seller used to do what? He used to do petty thievery plus begging. वो अपने survival के लिए, the body and soul together, underline it and write surviving or existing. अपने survival के लिए, अपने आप को जिंदा रखने के लिए, to keep himself going or to keep his breaths alive, he had to do three activities. First of all, he used to sell rat traps, जिससे उसको काफ़ी benefit नहीं होता था. There was not much income, there was not much profit. Second, what he used to do, he used to beg for his food or for his clothing, for his shelter or something. And third, he used to do petty thievery. इधर उधर जाके वो छोटी मोटी चोरियाँ करता था and उससे उसका गुजारा हो जाता था. Keeping his body and soul together, हिंदी में अगर बोलना चाहें, गुजारा करना, अपने आप को जिंदा रखना, that is keeping your body and soul together. So the Rattrap seller used to first of all sell rat traps as his business, but there was not much profit in that business. Second, he used to beg for his food and shelter and money. And third, he used to perform petty thievery. He used to steal small things from different places so that he can survive. So the Rattrap seller was a weird or a very unique creature. What he did, वो तीनों काम करता था. Begging भी करता था, petty thieveries भी होती थी, and he used to sell rat traps as his business as well. So obviously you will write this answer in your first question, that is what did the rat trap seller do? RT seller, मैंने rat trap इतना बड़ा word नहीं लिखा है for your own convenience. So what did the rat trap seller do to keep his body and soul together? So you have to write all the three things. I have already mentioned it to you. First of all, business of rat trap, which was not profitable. Second, he used to beg for food and shelter and money and clothes and everything. And third, he used to perform petty thievery. He used to steal small things from different places. Moving on. Even so his clothes were in rags. इतना सब कुछ करने के बाद भी, इतने तीन काम करने के बाद भी, his appearance is being described to us. क्या appearance था उसके बावजूद? His clothes were in rags. His clothes were torn. Rags, I have written torn clothes. मतलब इधर उधर से फट रहे थे. The clothes were torn from here and there. They were not in a very desirable condition. They were really worn out. They were really depreciated, and his condition was quite pitiable. Pitiable मतलब P-I-T-I-A-B-L-E. P-I-T-I-A-B-L-E. Pitiable means दयनीय, जिसको देख के आपको दया आ जाती है. एक वर्ड है commiserating. Commiserating means also कि दूसरों को देख के दया आ जाना. That is commiserating. So his condition was miserable, pathetic, pitiable, poor, and his clothes were in rags. Second description, his cheeks were sunken. Obviously he did not get proper nutrition, he did not get proper food or proper minerals, so that is why his body structure was also weak. His cheeks were sunken. उसके cheeks जो है वो अंदर जा चुके थे. If you have seen any poor people or the people who come door to door begging, you do not see that they are quite healthy or they are quite plump or they are very chubby. They have rosy cheeks or something like that. That is not going to happen. Their cheeks are very weak. They are very pale. They do not have proper working conditions. And that is why their physical appearance or their body structure is not very good looking. So his cheeks were sunken, he was very poor. Sunken मतलब क्या होता है? Shrink हो जाना, सिकुड़ जाना. उसके wrinkles जो हैं वो उसके cheeks पर दिख रहे थे. His cheeks were sunken and hunger gleamed in his eyes. Obviously his eyes shone with gleam मतलब चमकना, shine करना, to shine, to gleam. तो his eyes shone with hunger. उसकी आंखों में हमेशा भूख भरी हुई थी. Obviously he was very poor, he was in a very pitiable condition, so his eyes were gleaming with hunger. His eyes were gleaming with hunger. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond. No one can actually imagine, no one has a faintest idea, no one has a what can we say, relevant idea that how his life was going on, what kind of life he was leading. So no one can imagine how sad, how dejected, how disappointing, how miserable, how pathetic, how pitiable condition he was living in. And monotonous मतलब लिखा हुआ है boring. Of course his life was boring. He was going around selling rat traps. He was going around begging for his daily amenities, daily necessities, and he was also performing the act of stealing, which is illegal. So his life was very boring, it's monotonous, it's vapid, it's slavish, S-L-A-V-I-S-H. Slavish also means vapid. एक word आता है insipid. Insipid मतलब tasteless. उसकी लाइफ में कोई taste नहीं था, कोई culture नहीं था, कोई thrill नहीं था. His life was quite boring, quite monotonous, quite slavish, quite insipid, tasteless, flavorless. So no one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond. Vagabond मतलब क्या होता है? See, there's one Bond, that is James Bond. We are not talking about 07. We are talking about वेगाबॉन्ड विच मीन्स अ वॉन्डरर, जिसका परमानेंट घर नहीं होता है उसको वेगाबॉन्ड बोलते हैं. जो अपने घर के लिए इधर उधर भटकता रहता है, हु कीप्स वॉन्डरिंग फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर, दैट पर्सन इज कॉल्ड अ वेगाबॉन्ड, जिसको हम एक और वर्ड में वॉन्डरर बोल सकते हैं. देयर विल बी मोर सिनोनिम्स दैट विल कम. आई विल लाइक टू राइट इट डाउन. देन एक आएगा रेगामफिन. Don't need to memorize it right now, जो बाद में आएगा तब हम लर्न करेंगे. And second word is tramp, T-R-A-M-P. Tramp is very easy. Usually the questions being asked here, उसमें rat trap seller को क्या बोला गया है? Tramp. He is referred to as being a tramp. So he was a tramp He was a vagabond, he was a ragamuffin, he was a wanderer. He did not have a permanent place to stay, he did not have a permanent shelter over his body, and that is why he is called a vagabond. So his life was miserable, pathetic, pitiable, sad. He had a very monotonous, boring life. Who plods along the road, who plods along the road, this person, this rat trap seller plods along the road मतलब walks along the road, एक रोड से दूसरी रोड पे वो चलता है और क्या करता है, left to his own meditations, left to his own thoughts, left to his own views, his own opinions. meditation का मतलब ऐसा होता है ध्यान करना, पर जब आप ध्यान करते हैं, जब आप meditation करते हैं, you get number of thoughts, numerous thoughts, several thoughts you get. So of course जस्ट इमेजिन अ सिचुएशन, अगर आपने किसी भिखारी को देखा है या किसी पुअर मिजरेबल पर्सन को देखा है हु गोज फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर सेलिंग थिंग्स लाइक दैट, सो यू विल सी दैट पर्सन इज इन इट्स ओन स्पेस ऑफ माइंड. उसका दिमाग जो है वो कहीं और होता है. ऑफ कोर्स sometimes he murmurs or sometimes he whispers certain thing and you are not able to understand what he is saying because his own thoughts, his own understanding, his own meditations are different from us. उसकी लाइफ में कोई नहीं है, he does not have a family, he does not have a home, he has to beg for his amenities and he is having a very boring life. तो क्या करेगा, उसके साथ रहेगा कौन, उसके thoughts. Thoughts are your constant companion. Thoughts हमेशा आपका साथ निभाते हैं. आपके friends, आपके families, आपके neighbors, आपके relatives आपको छोड़ के चले जाएंगे, but your thoughts and your views will always remain with you because of course they are in your brain, they are inside your brain and you cannot get rid of your brain. So that is why many people, many students that I teach, they used to keep their brain at home and then come to school. That is not the case with real people. So what they do, what here it is mentioned that Rattrap seller had his own meditation, has his own thoughts. He used to think a lot because he was alone in his life, he was miserable in his life, he had a very boring lifestyle. आप सोचिए that person who is constantly busy, let's take an example of Mukesh Ambani. He is one of the richest person in the world, so he is not having his own meditations a lot. उसके इतने थॉट्स नहीं होते होंगे बिकॉज हिज माइंड इज ऑक्यूपाइड इन हिज बिजनेस वाले थॉट्स होते हैं. ऑफ कोर्स देयर आर मिलियंस ऑफ थॉट्स अबाउट बिजनेस इन द माइंड्स ऑफ मुकेश अंबानी, बट जो फालतू के अनएम्प्लॉयड जॉबलेस थॉट्स हैं वो उनके मन में नहीं आते हैं बिकॉज ही इज कॉन्स्टेंटली एम्प्लॉयड इन हिज बिजनेस. उनका जो ध्यान है, उनका जो कॉन्सेंट्रेशन है, उनका जो अटेंशन है, दैट इज कॉन्स्टेंटली और इंसेसेंटली और कंटिन्यूसली रेगुलरली डिवोटेड इन हिज ओन बिजनेस. ही डज नॉट हैव टाइम फॉर दीज यूजलेस एक्टिविटीज. अब जो ये मेडिटेशन है रैट्रैप सेलर का, वो क्या मेडिटेशन है वो हम पढ़ेंगे कल. इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन वी विल लर्न इट. राइट नाउ the second question is describe the appearance of Rattrap seller. The Rattrap seller was very weak and pathetic looking wise. He was not wearing proper clothes. He was wearing rags. They were worn out or they were torn here and there. His cheeks were shrunken and hunger gleamed in his eyes. Means he was very hungry, he was very famished. F-A-M-I-S-H-E-D. Famished मतलब भूखा होना. He was starving मतलब भूखा होना. So he was quite starving, he was quite famished, hunger gleamed in his eyes, his cheeks were shrunken, and of course he was not wearing proper clothes. He did not have even proper shelter over his head. You have to write these things in your copy. I will see you in the next session. Until then, thank you very much. Goodbye.